All right, hello everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Geek Garage Podcast, the most inclusive and accessible nerd culture audio program on the interwebs. I'm your host, David, and joined with me is my sexy co-host, Lindsay, my wife. How are you doing, Lindsay, my wife?
Pretty good.
Good?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, this past Christmas, I surprised you with a vacation package to Universal Studios Florida, in which we would attend and do all of the Harry Potter and Hogwarts related things.
Yes.
There, yeah.
Yes.
Something in which we, both of us, but especially you, were had been wanting to do essentially since it opened, right?
Yes, very much so. Yes.
Yeah. And it was a long wait between December and you know what, like last Saturday. But we made it, and I'd say it was well worth it, right?
Very much so. Yes. We had a really, really great time, and I would like to mention we did not take the children.
Yeah.
Which made it even better. So, it was a very much deserved break for us, and it was just nice. We got to reconnect a little bit, and we just did fun stuff, and we didn't have to plan 3 hours extra to pack up the children and take them with us for every move we made.
Yeah, you know, throughout this process of, well, just waiting and then, like, telling people, like, hey, we're going to Universal, and blah, 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 be like, oh, are the kids excited? Be like, fuck them kids. Like, it was that meme. It was, I mean, not that we wouldn't enjoy bringing the kids. In fact, like, before we sat down to record this episode, we were planning our next trip, which will probably be primarily Disney stuff, but we're going to try and do it at the early parts of 2023, because we showed our son Charlie some videos of the Slinky Dog Dash, the new Toy Story ride at Disney World, and he lost his damn mind, and he needs to go now. So
he thinks.
Yeah. But yeah, so today our goal is, it's not to be like, hey, look at all this awesome stuff we got to do. Aren't you jealous? It's a little bit of that, but it is mostly just talking about our experience, because it was our first experience going. Like, I had been to Universal once before, but I think I just graduated 8th grade. And we only went to Universal Studios. We didn't do Islands of Adventure. And, you know, at that point in time, I was too chicken shit to ride anything exciting. So, you know, I didn't really take part in a lot of what the theme parks had to offer. So I'd like to say this was, you know, definitely both of our first trips to Universal and experiencing everything that it has to offer. And we also did one day of Disney parks, and we'll get to that as well. But like I was saying, we, you know, this isn't a braggadocious kind of thing. We just wanted to share with you our experience, some of the things that we learned, because we learned a lot. Some things we learned by watching videos, some things we learned the hard way. And any knowledge that we have that we can pass down to anyone that's listening that might be going, we would like to do that. So, but before we get started, we wanted to throw a quick shout out. We definitely watched just a plethora of YouTube channels, but the one that we gravitated towards the most was a channel called the Pugh Two, and we watched them so much that, like, we've never met them. I am an official donor to their Patreon, but, like, they feel like friends. Which is kind of a weird thing to say, but you know, that's kind of what happens when you listen to podcasts and watch YouTube videos, like, incessantly from the same creators. Like, you just feel like you're a part of their lives. And they're just cool like that. And yeah, you should definitely go check out their videos and subscribe to their Patreon if you're interested in throwing them some money, because they definitely have some worthwhile content. So yeah, I just wanted to give them a shout out real quick because they helped us out just tremendously. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. Anyways, so before we get started, we're not the authority figures, and we'll probably never claim to be, but we just, this is what you're about to hear. It's what worked for us, and we'll be candid. We'll talk about the things that ended up not working, but we ended up having a pretty good time with all the planning that we put into this. So yeah, here it is. Let's see. So we wanted to first cover some of the logistics regarding the planning of our trip. I since this was a surprise to Lindsay, a Christmas present surprise, I took care of everything through the Universal website. And this was pretty easy to do, with a few exceptions. There's a little bit of a learning curve when it comes to the verbiage that they use. Like, you might have to go and Google some of the terminology that they use on the website, like park to park and 2-day, 3-day, park to park, like just all that nonsense. Like, it can be pretty overwhelming. So, yeah, that's why Google is there. And also the website does a decent job as well of trying to explain what it means, but it did get a little confusing. Let's see, what did we end up getting, honey? Was it, it was the 2-day park to park, right?
Yes.
So that, you want to tell our listeners what that allowed us to do?
So the main reason why we needed the park to park is because you can't ride the Hogwarts Express unless you have the park to park pass. That's a big reason. Yeah. It allowed us to attend both parks for 2 days. So we could have either have done like Universal and stayed at Universal like all day one day, and then done like Islands of Adventure the next day, and then the Hogwarts Express goes actually between the two parks. So we could have, or we could spend like half the day at one and then half the day at the other, which is kind of what we did both days.
Yeah. So if you are looking to plan your trip and ride the Hogwarts Express, you can pay for tickets. Like, there is a ticketing booth right outside the ride in both Hogsmeade and Diagon Alley, where you can purchase just tickets to ride the Hogwarts Express.
Well, you can add on the park.
Right, yeah. So, I mean, it's, if I'm not mistaken, it will be a little bit more expensive buying it there on the spot rather than buying it in advance, which is going to ring true for pretty much anything and everything that you will spend money on in the parks, with the exception of the things you can only get when you're inside the parks. So I don't even want to get into our flight stuff because that's its own thing. We ended up flying through Spirit, and the flight itself was great. Like, I mean, if it wasn't for the snafus of having some of our baggage misplaced and having a 6-hour layover in Fort Lauderdale, and them not telling us that the flight was delayed until like 30 minutes after the flight was supposed to take off, I would have given them more, a better rating than I would have. So, when you're looking at flight info, just know, Spirit is going to be one of your cheapest options, but you will pay for it in other ways. So, just
fair.
Take that as it is. There are a couple of vacation packages to purchase on the Universal website. There's a couple themed ones, And it was no question which one we needed to buy. It was the Harry Potter one. So what this included was 2 park tickets for 2 people. So for me and Lindsay. And it... so yeah, we were able to do 2 parks on both days. We went on a Monday and Tuesday, and then it included breakfast for one day at the Three Broomsticks in Hogsmeade, and then the next day it included breakfast for the Leaky Cauldron. I mean, we did have to wait in line. I don't know. It wasn't very long. Like for both, I think it was maybe about 10 minutes, 15 minutes max. And then once we sat down, the food was there like very quickly. Like the kitchens in both are a very well-oiled machine. So,
and the breakfast selections for both were pretty limited as well.
Yeah.
Should mention that.
Right, yeah. There's like a traditional English breakfast, which is, like it's got, I think it had like eggs and beans and some other stuff. So, I mean, if you're if you're daring and you want to try like a traditional English breakfast that I'm assuming is Americanized in some form or fashion, then go for it. But I stuck with the tried and true pancakes and bacon, which was pretty good.
Yeah,
not bad. So yeah, like I was saying, it comes with the 2 breakfast reservations. Your food is already covered. That was one thing I totally forgot about, or maybe even didn't realize. When you order through the Harry Potter vacation package, your food is already covered. So that was kind of nice. Like we went in, that was one thing that we didn't have to worry about paying for.
And if you didn't make these reservations, it's I guess a good thing to note that breakfast would have been $17.99 a person.
Yeah. Everything is vastly more expensive. No, that shouldn't be a surprise to anyone that, once you step inside the grounds, everything is very pricey. Our vacation package also came with a fun little, what was it?
Shutterbees, I think.
I keep on wanting to call it Shutterfly, but I don't think that's it.
It's not it. It was like Shutterbees, I think.
No, it doesn't matter. There's a fun little picture place in Diagon Alley where you can go, and they it feels kind of silly and ridiculous, but it's fun. They have you do these little movements and look at things, and you're doing it all in front of a green screen, and you're basically watching frogs hop along in a a Birdie Bots or Honeydukes.
Yeah, the chocolate frogs and Honeydukes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then another one is you're in Hogwarts and looking at some of the pictures on the walls and just neat shit like that.
And so the point is to make you into moving photographs
mm-hmm.
you see in Harry Potter.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. Not the highlight of the trip, but it's one of those things where it's inside, and so we booked it at what was it, 1 o'clock?
1 o'clock.
That was a pretty well timed thing, because it's high noon, and it was fucking very very hot. So
already in May.
Yeah. Well, it's Florida, so but it turned out to be a pretty well-timed thing where we got to go inside for a little bit and beat the heat. Let's see, what else did it come with? I think really the last thing is it came with this cool little box. We got maybe a week before our trip, and it said we're excited to welcome the Dassaw family, and it's this commemorative Wizarding World box that you open it up and it's hollow inside, and it's got your lanyards, to carry your cards and your hotel key and all that.
And it had luggage tags in it.
Yeah, it had fun little luggage tags too. That was really cool. I think that's pretty much it for the vacation package stuff. So we did stay on property at the, let's see, what hotel was it? The
Endless Summer Dockside.
Yeah. There's 2 brand new resorts there on the Universal property. There's the Endless Summer Surfside and Dockside. And like Lindsay said, we stayed at the Dockside. There's really no difference between the two as far as prices go. The aesthetics are relatively similar. The Surfside is on or close to a small body of water.
It's like a small little like man-made lake thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's not huge, but it's. I think a couple Uber drivers that we used, they said that a water park was there up until a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, we did stay on property, and that was incredibly beneficial. We definitely recommend that. We'll get to that here in just a second with some other recommendations that we have. So the Surfside and Dockside Inn, they are going to be your cheapest options, and they are not dinky. Like, they're not like, oh, you walk in and you're, oh, like, well, I can see why they're the cheapest options. Like, they were perfectly adequate for what we needed.
If you're not planning on spending much time in the room, they're perfect. Everything was clean. There was 2 queen size beds in our room. Everything, we're a small fridge and a TV and,
on demand channels.
Yes.
That was neat. We don't have that at home.
And, but it was very clean. It had everything that we needed as far as the room. And I mean, we weren't really in there too much.
No.
So
yeah.
we just needed a decent place to, lay down.
Right. Yeah. But we also wanted to stay on property to take advantage of the perks of staying on property. And like I said, we'll get to that here in just a second. Let's see. So before we get into our day-to-day, like I said, we wanted to talk about some things that we recommend. And like I just said, staying on property. The perks that come with staying on property, the shuttle. That's probably the biggest thing, right?
Yes. Universal is very different than Disney in that the 2 parks, Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios, are like literally right next to each other. You literally walk into City Walk and you can see Universal on one side, Islands of Adventure on the other. Mm-hmm. So the shuttles are basically just going back and forth between City Walk and the hotel.
Right.
So we never had to wait for a shuttle. Like, for the most part, they were always like right there. Or if we had to wait maybe 2 or 3 minutes, it was never a long time.
Yeah.
And there was like a shuttle it's like, oh, we got there. Oh, there it is. So
yeah, they advertise that the shuttles come every 15 minutes, but it's sooner than that. Like, the most we had to wait was literally just waiting in line to board the buses, or the shuttles, whatever you want to call them. I think the longest we waited was maybe the first day we went to the parks. We stayed to watch the Hogwarts light show that they do, which we will get to that. And so we were leaving the parks around 9:00, and that is when the parks close. And so there's, this mass exodus of people from the parks. And, no surprise that with those 2 hotels being new and being the cheapest options, a lot of people use them. And so, but still, like, getting in line and getting through the line, like, there's like a million buses that
like
run.
Literally, the people in front of us filled up one bus. It took off and within a minute or two, there was another bus right behind it,
Right.
and we just got on that one. So.
Yeah, and in the mornings, if you are going to, if you're going to take advantage of the early park admission, which is something that we also recommend, like the day we were leaving, I didn't really notice this before, like the amount of shuttles that show up in the morning, but like when we were waiting for our shuttle to take us to the airport when, you know, our trip was over, like there was 3 or 4 buses lined up, just, you know, ready to take people to the parks for early park admission, because it's a wise idea to do early park admission, especially if you are going like this summer or during any busy times of the year. So yeah, that is early park admission is definitely something that we recommend as well. It is only they only do it for Islands of Adventure and Volcano Bay. They don't do it for Universal Studios, the regular Universal Studios park. But that kind of works out, because most of the stuff that gets really busy that everyone wants to ride is in Islands of Adventure. So, let's see. Oh yeah, taking advantage of park re-entry. So we definitely took advantage of this. This is something that we thought was really cool. You could do, like, you could leave the parks in like the afternoon, go back to your hotel, take a nap, and go back at like 4 or 5 in the afternoon or whenever, and you know, let the crowds die down a little bit, or at the very least, like let the sun set a little bit, so you know it's not so blazing hot, and then continue writing stuff, and you're all refreshed from taking a nap. And we did that both days. And yeah, you'd recommend it, right?
Definitely, yes.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. It was very surreal, like going home and then or going back to the hotel and then like taking a nap, and just knowing that you're gonna wake up and then go back to the parks. It was just a very weird feeling to me, but kind of cool. So
yeah, and that's another thing is like the ride from the parks to back to your hotel is like less than 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. So like it's not like it was like this huge ordeal to like leave the parks, have to get on a bus. It's not like this is a 30-minute trip or something.
Yeah, it's going to take longer for you to walk out of the park and to the shuttle, because you do have to, after you exit the park, like Lindsay said earlier, you all roads lead through City Walk at the beginning and the end, because City Walk is the first thing that you come to. So you'll have to walk through City Walk and then walk back out through the security gates and then, you know, back to the shuttles. So you'll spend more time walking to the shuttles than it takes for the shuttles to get you back to the hotel. So let's see. And then I think the last thing I had, and this was one of your pro tips, was try to ride rides as you come to them. You want to talk a little bit about that?
I just was saying, like, there's no point in trying to like ride rides by zigzagging across the park, because I mean you're going to do a lot of walking regardless. So there's no point in, you know, leaving Jurassic Park, going to, you know, Harry Potter, then going to Seuss Landing, then coming back to Harry Potter, then going back to, you know, there's no point in doing that. It's much better, I think, just to pick a direction and just kind of follow that around and then hit everything as you come to it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Don't be afraid to find the maps for the 2 parks well before your vacation and kind of map out you know, a tentative game plan. It's okay if you don't stick to it. You know, shit happens, things come up, you know, especially if you are bringing along kids. Even if you're not bringing along kids, it could just be you and your partner, and you could hit a point where you still have like 3 rides left that you want to do before you go back to the hotel for the afternoon and take your nap. And you might hit a wall and be like, I am done. Like, I need to sit down. And that kind of happened to us one of the days where, we had grand plans on writing a bunch of stuff in the morning to, early afternoon. And we were done because the heat was, it was hot.
Yeah, I will say that this trip made us feel old. Or at least for me. I was just like this. Yeah, I'm old now.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised at how well I held up. I mean, it was still hell on my body, and I feel like I'm still recovering. I am still recovering, undoubtedly. But yeah, I definitely suggest if you work like a desk job and you have a pretty sedentary lifestyle right now, like get a gym membership or take some laps around your neighborhood or something. Like get a couple months before your trip, like get your ass up off the couch and do some body work exercises and just to get some functional strength going. So yeah, that's it as far as things we recommend. We right now we want to dive into the good stuff and talk about our day. Or our days, plural. Like we said, we definitely took advantage of the early access, the park early access, and everyone and their mother beelines for the newest Harry Potter themed ride, which is, help me out here, it's Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure.
Yes,
I think that's the whole title. We just paraphrase it as Hagrid's because that's way too long a title to try and regurgitate every time you want to mention the ride. But yeah, there's a good reason why everyone beelines for this ride because it gets backed up pretty damn quick. Am I right?
Yes, very much so. I will say they have several coasters and it moves relatively quickly, but that queue is long.
Yeah.
Like long. I'm talking like more than a mile long.
Yeah, it's got to be at least a mile long. And Lindsay, like you said, there's it's very efficient. Like once you get up to the actual ride, you'll step on a conveyor belt like it's one of those moving sidewalks because the ride literally never stops going. And like it's like double Dutch that way, where you just hop in, and that's how they're able to keep the line moving consistently.
Yeah.
But yeah, we went straight for this ride. One thing to note about Hagrid's, and we'll note this about the rides as we come to them. Hagrid's is a I don't know what you want to call it, like a locker ride where they want you to put most of your belongings in a locker. Like you won't be able to take any backpacks or like fanny packs on there. Like we were able to bring our cell phones on there, but like if it's not in your pocket or like attached to you as a piece of clothing, then it has to go in a locker.
Your lanyards, you were allowed to bring your lanyards.
Right, yeah. I don't think we didn't run into any rides where you had to put your lanyards, because you can just simply tuck those inside your shirt.
Right.
Because what most people do is put their park ticket in the little clear sleeve of your lanyard. And that is the way that you will access a locker. And lockers are free as long as you just need like the small one, like the 14 by 18 size locker that fits, like a decent sized backpack. But yeah, so you'll go through the queue for maybe about 8 to 10 minutes, and then like most of that is walking, and then you'll get to the lockers where you'll have to jump out of line and rent a locker real quick, put your stuff in there, and then get back in line, and then do some more walking. But that's where the after you put your stuff in the lockers, that's where you see like the really cool shit for the ride. So
the theming, you mean?
The what?
The theming, you mean?
Yeah,
for the ride.
like the huts and.
Yeah, you saw Hagrid's house, and it's kind of like you're going to a magical creatures lesson. So
yeah.
We kind of went through some classrooms where we saw things like dragon eggs and various creatures.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the queue for this is a lot of fun. Like, no matter what part you're at, there's always something to look at. It's really fun, and I mean, I wouldn't say like interactive, but there's just like the amount of attention to detail that they put into it is beyond measure. It's amazing. Like there's this one part where you see like these dragon eggs and like on shelves, and they have a simulated like skyline in the ceiling where like at first I thought it was like just windows, but I'm pretty sure it's like simulated to look like, you know, the outside is shining in, just so they can like set the mood for, you know, different parts of the line. But yeah, the line is awesome, and then, you know, the ride is amazing. It's probably my favorite Harry Potter themed ride.
It's everyone's favorite.
You think so?
It's why it's so busy.
I mean,
and it's the only one without, except for the Hippogriff, without any like 3D screens.
Yeah, that's definitely an important thing to note. So like, I guess it could potentially be a bummer or a plus depending on your approach to rides. The like Lindsay said, so you have the Hogwarts Forbidden Journey. Is that Hogwarts Forbidden Journey. You have Gringotts and
Hagrid's, and then you have the Hippogriff.
Right, but is the Hogwarts ride and Gringotts the only two that uses? I guess you could sort of kind of count the Hogwarts Express as using a little bit of 2D or 3D, 4D kind of elements, but you don't need glasses for those. Yeah, like Hagrid's, aside from Flight of the Hippogriff, which is definitely a kiddie ride, or a ride for children. Hagrid's is like the only true legit roller coaster that.
But it doesn't go upside down or anything.
Right. Yeah. It's
but it's pretty fast.
It is very fast. So you do have a motorcycle and a sidecar, and we took turns because both days we rode Hagrid's first. Both Monday and Tuesday, and we switched it up on, the second day I did the sidecar and Lindsay did the motorcycle, and she agreed with me that the motorcycle is a bit more intense. So if you're looking like, it's going to suck your face off regardless, but being on the motorcycle, you're up in a more pronounced position. Just with that natural position, you're going to feel a lot more of the intensity of the ride.
Yeah, because I mean, you're in the sidecar, you're kind of like tucked down a little more.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was super fun. Like the motorcycle was super fun.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of kids in the ride, so if your kid is a little nervous, I would definitely recommend they do the sidecar.
Yeah. Yeah, that is the cool trade-off with, the bike being a little bit more intense than the sidecars. That if you are, like Lindsay said, riding with the kid, you can stick them in the sidecar and they won't have as intense of an experience. So yeah, Hagrid's is amazing. You know, like we said, it's the newest ride that that they just recently built. There is no express line for it. That's another thing we forgot to mention. We did do express passes for both days. If you're unfamiliar with express passes and how they work, it's relatively simple. It's kind of like Universal's version of like Fast Pass, what Disney had for Fast Pass. I mean, it's lightning lanes now, and it's significantly more complicated.
Universal system is so much easier.
Yeah,
like literally, you just go get in the line.
Yeah,
that's it. It's just a shorter line.
Yeah, there's no like booking and whatnot. Well, when we get to our one single day at Disney, we'll talk a little bit about the lightning lane situation and how much that's changed. But I'd say, especially if you're going during a busy part of the year, and buying the express passes is a no-brainer. It
cut your wait time in half.
Yeah,
basically. So if you're looking at a 70-minute wait time, it's going to be cut down to 35.
If that. And we discovered that they usually overestimate on times.
Yeah.
Like they would say like Hagrid's was like 70 or 80 minutes or something like that, and I don't think the first day, like, I think they were having to run the carts to make sure that everything was okay. Maybe something happened.
They had some sort of delay the first morning. Like, they were actually coming over the loudspeakers and are like, this magical creature's lesson is currently postponed.
Yeah. I mean, that was kind of fun how, like, they don't drop character for letting you know that the ride is delayed. I mean, some people did like get out of line and they're like, screw this, we're not waiting. But joke's on them. Like 5-6 minutes after they left, the line was moving again.
Yeah. So
if that happens to you, I'd say to stick it out for a few minutes, because there's a good chance that it could be up and running in no time. But yeah, back to express passes, 100% worth it, especially if you're doing it or going to the parks during the busy season. They are a little bit pricey, and the prices do fluctuate depending on the time of year, but 100% worth it. Let's see. After Hagrid's, we did the Hogwarts Forbidden Journey, and this one made me sick. Not physically sick. I didn't throw up or anything, but when we got out, I was definitely like leaning on my knees, like, oh. I was white in the face after this one, which is a shame because, like, objectively, it's a really cool ride.
It is a cool ride, but the 3D screens just aren't very fun to me. They're not as fun as like actual props and scenery. Mm-hmm. And this ride actually has a combination of both. It has like the 3D screens, and then it also has like some of the Dementors and different things, and the dragon at one point was
some cool practical effects.
Yeah. But yeah, the screens just, that's one of the downsides of the Gringotts ride, because it's all screens.
I'd say, and we'll elaborate a little bit more on this. I think Gringotts does it the best, though. I mean,
yes.
that could just be me, maybe because is Gringotts newer than Hogwarts? Do you know, or were they both? Or it has to be, because Diagon Alley was built second.
Yes.
Okay. Maybe just the technology had improved. Between building Hogsmeade and Hogwarts, and then building Diagon Alley with Gringotts and everything. Maybe just the technology of like the 3D rides got a little bit better.
I will say the one cool thing about the Forbidden Journey is you actually get to go through the castle. Yeah. And you see some cool props, and you see a lot of different things. you see a lot of moving portraits and
if there is a downside to the express pass, that would be it, right? You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so with the express pass, you miss part of the line, so you can miss some of the theming.
Yeah, like you will skip all the way through like the herbology room, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if you are a diehard fan, then you might just want to stick it out and go through the regular line at least once.
Mm-hmm.
So I will say in the afternoons when we came back, the wait times were lower. So that may be something to look for if you go as well.
Yeah. Yeah, like there's it's definitely a good idea to, like Lindsay did this. She downloaded the Universal app as well as the like a third party but very reputable app that just focused on wait times. And she had a much better idea than I did of like when rides hit certain, like wait times like throughout the day. In short, yes, the express passes are awesome, but like Lindsay said, you do miss out a little bit on the aesthetics. Like they plan for people to be waiting in line, so they paid a lot of attention when designing the queues, so that you would at least have cool stuff to look at when going through the line. So, let's see. So after that, we did Ollivanders, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I could get my wand.
Mm-hmm. You want to talk a little bit about that experience?
So they just do like a little show, very much like what's in the movie, where they pick usually a child.
Yes. Yeah, if you're an adult, like, don't get your heart set on getting picked, because it's usually a kid.
Yeah. And so they do a couple of tricks with the lighting or whatever, and they're like, oh, give it a wave, and then like something silly would happen. And like, oh, not that wand. And then, they give her another wand, and give that one a wave. Oh, something else silly happens.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
and
like
then,
drawers and or like wands will start to like come out of the shelves and stuff.
Yeah, and like the lighting like flashes and stuff, and then finally they'll get to the last wand. She gives it a wave, and then it kind of yeah.
Yeah, the clouds part, and
obviously
Jesus comes down, and he's
yes,
like,
well, the
your
wand chooses the wizard, so
right.
This is the right wand for that person,
right?
So it's just a cute little show, maybe 10-12 minutes, maybe, if that.
Yeah, it's
we had to wait a little bit, but a lot of times, from what I understand, they have 2 shows running at once during the busier times. So I think there was only one when we were waiting, and we had to wait probably 20-30 minutes maybe.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
No, and it was in the shade, and I will say Universal does a good job of like providing more shade than Disney does.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, like, granted, we spent quite a bit of time in Galaxy's Edge, and what is the part of Star Wars land that you're supposed to be in, trees are not a thing. So it wouldn't really be on brand to have like big trees.
Yeah, but they could have done like arches, or had you walk through like some shops, or
I mean, it's not shadeless, but like you said, Universal, there's a lot more opportunities for shade.
Yeah, and then even like in Disney and like Toy Story Land, there's just no shade.
No,
there's none.
Yeah, there's. I mean, they had some umbrellas that, like, we saw a family leaving, and we were like, oh, we just like ran in there and then
push the small child down.
Yeah. This just reminded me, like, don't be afraid to like strike up conversations with people like while you're waiting in line. That's a good way to pass the time. Like we did that all the time, even if it's just like small little like, you know, how do you do's and whatnot. Like Orlando, you know, no surprise, is a major tourist destination. So you will meet people, like we met people from London and other parts of the UK. You know, we met people from Edmonton, like all over the place. So it was cool to like get little mini doses of culture and learn about other parts of the world just in like a microdose level. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
After the show at Ollivander's, the doors open up to the shopping part, and you get to go, you know, shop for wands and other, you know, wizarding accessories. They have robes and stuff too. So
Yes.
which wand did you end up getting?
Professor McGonagall.
Yeah, I know that, but I just wanted to phrase it in the form of a question to make it more interesting. Yeah, her wand's pretty dope. All the wands there are really cool. And of course, if you haven't read about it, there's like two different types of wands. There's like regular wands that are a little bit cheaper, and then there's ones that are a little bit more expensive, but they have like the magic capabilities. Like there's like gold or bronze, like, what do you call them?
Like a placard in the sidewalk.
Yeah, like on the grounds, like outside of shops where you stand and you can like flick your wand. I don't know if there's like specific instructions.
Yeah, on the placard it shows you exactly how to move your wand. And
right.
What spell you're doing.
Yeah, and you can make like little things in the shop window move and stuff. It's pretty cool. I don't think we even really did that. We were like, let's save it for next time or something like that. It's like there was a lot of people doing it, and it was like little kids, and it's not like we were embarrassed to go and try and do it, but you know, we just felt like we just let the kids do it. And
yeah, like it just wasn't like a major thing that I just had to do or anything. Right. So I was too busy like taking pictures and just soaking in like being there.
Yeah.
And being surrounded by all the theming and everything. It was just really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then after Ollivander's, we did breakfast at the Three Broomsticks. You know, we talked about that a little bit earlier, where you just you get in line, you order your food. This is an opportunity where you can order butterbeer, which comes in 3 styles. It comes in just regular chilled, comes in frozen, and then it comes in hot. We did not try the hot. I did chilled on the first day, and Lindsay, you did frozen. Yes. Correct? And then the second day when we did the Leaky Cauldron, I did frozen again. Just frozen is king. Like,
yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, and like it actually, so it's sweet, but it's actually not as sweet as you might think. It's not just like, you know, 15 ounces of melted sugar with some caramel syrup. It's not bad. So yeah, it's delicious, and a must do for, even if you just try a sip of someone's, you know, taking part of butterbeer. It's just a must. And they also have some other stuff like pumpkin juice, gilly water, which we believe is just bottled water, but sold at like $4 or $5.
Yeah, it was something crazy. It was like $5.99 or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's just filtered or if it's got some fizz to it, like if it's carbonated or anything. Either way, I think it's just water. Could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And then after breakfast, we did the Hogwarts Express, and we rode it from Hogsmeade to Diagon Alley. Like we said earlier, you must purchase either tickets ahead of time, the park-to-park tickets, or tickets at the right outside the train station, so you can go between the two parks. We, like we said earlier, we suggest doing the Hogwarts Express. It's not the full Harry Potter experience if you don't do the Hogwarts Express, and you have to do it both sides. You have to ride from Hogsmeade to Diagon Alley and then vice versa.
Yeah, it's different depending on which way you go.
I will say this isn't necessarily objective, but I like hands down going from Diagon Alley to Hogsmeade was better. I thought like it was more entertaining. It did. This might have just been coincidence. It did take us a lot longer, like waiting in line and whatnot, but it could have just been like the time of day. Like it was later on in the afternoon, like around 6 or 7 that we were trying to do it. So a lot of people were trying to probably squeeze like the last bit of entertainment for the day before things start to wind down. But yeah, riding the Hogwarts Express is a must. You're not a true Harry Potter fan unless you do it. So, once we got to Diagon Alley, we did Escape from Gringotts, which is incredible. I get motion sickness pretty easily. Lindsay does too, right? But
the 3D rides really do me in. Everything else I'm fine with. It's the 3D stuff that, for whatever reason, it just does me in.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you used to be like hands down much better with motion sickness than I was, but it seems like as we've gotten a little bit older, a little bit more long in the tooth, we're kind of on the same level with the 3D and 4D rides. But Escape from Gringotts is probably the best. Like we said a little bit earlier, it's maybe the technology is just a little bit better, but it's really cool because there's parts or the parts that are like 3D that are like projected holographics. Like it looks so freaking realistic, and how it integrates with the actual ride, because you're not just on like this cart on rails, like just kind of zooming through. Like you actually go, like, it shoots down and around and stuff. Like we don't want to give too much away and spoil too much, but it's not just like you're on rails. Like it's an actual ride, but it's interactive and it's got these holographic projections and it's a lot of fun. And then after that, we did that Shutterbug or Shutterfly, whatever it is, the photo op experience. And then we took a break. That was around like 1:30, 2 o'clock, something like that. We went back to the hotel, took like a 2-hour nap. Felt really good.
Yes.
Because, if you do the early park admission, you're waking up at like 5:30, 6 o'clock, something like that, in order to get to the parks around like 7 or so. And the lines back up very early. So that's definitely something to be aware of. Once we came back to the parks later on that afternoon around, I want to say maybe 5:30, we did the Hulk, and Lindsay really liked this ride.
Yeah, it was probably my favorite.
Yeah?
My favorite non-Harry Potter ride anyway. Right.
It's a lot of fun. The Hulk has been there for quite a while, but it still looks brand spanking new. The queue is a lot of fun. Even if you have the express passes and get to go around like the back alleyway, like there's still fun stuff to look at, and they kind of simulate like you going or getting exposed to gamma radiation and becoming the Hulk. And there's when you get on the ride, there's a part where you're doing that traditional incline, where it's building up to that very first drop, and there's something very unexpected that happens, and like you can kind of see what I'm talking about once you get there, and like you you can just stand outside the ride and watch people like ride it, like come out of this tube or tunnel, but you really don't realize how abrupt it is until you ride it yourself. But it's a lot of fun.
Yes.
This is another big locker ride. Nothing can go with you except for your lanyard, like hats, wallets, cell phones. If it's not clothes or your lanyard, you can't bring it on the ride.
Yeah, and you do go through metal detectors.
Right, yeah. You can bring your Apple Watch. It was a thing, like, everyone that had a watch, like, you basically cover up the face where the metal part is and then walk through the metal detector. But yeah, you know, that's just for insurance purposes, I think, just to make sure that you don't end up losing anything and you end up suing the parks because you lost your cell phone. But yeah, the Hulk was amazing. That was, aside from Hagrid's, that was the only other ride we did twice, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I guess, I mean, if you want to count the Hogwarts Express.
Yes.
Which is a ride, but it's not a thrill ride like Hagrid's and the Hulk. After the Hulk, we did Spider-Man, which was a lot of fun.
It's 3D though.
Yeah.
Fair warning.
Yeah, that one is 3D. It's not too bad. I think it's a little bit of an older ride, but it still holds up. It's got a Stan Lee cameo, which is amazing.
Yes. And just so you know, Spider-Man and the Transformers ride over in Universal are very much the same. Like, same type of ride.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Transformers is a little bit longer, I'd say.
Yes, I think so too.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll elaborate a little bit more on that when we get to it. So yeah, Spider-Man was cool. The gift shop for Spider-Man was awesome. Maybe I'm just subjective because Spider-Man has historically been one of my favorite comic book characters and MCU characters and just overall, favorites. But yeah, that was awesome. And then we did the Popeye ride, the only water ride we ended up doing, really, which was just one of those, like circular tubes. You all sit in a circle and you go down, this river and you splash into walls and you get wet. We got soaked.
Yeah, like drenched, soaked.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. They did have a compartment to put all your stuff in to keep it dry. So that was nice. Like, you didn't have to do lockers or anything. And it worked fine. Nothing got wet. No cell phones or anything got wet.
Right.
But yeah, you are soaking wet. There wasn't a dry thing on me when we got off that ride.
Right. They actually do have like these like kiosks that you can go stand in and dry yourself. We didn't end up doing it, but I guess it like is just a full body equivalent of a hand dryer in a bathroom, in a restroom. I'm assuming that's how it works, and you can kind of quickly or get in there and dry off a lot quicker than you would just by walking around or letting the sun beat down on you for a little bit. But yeah, Popeye, that was fun, to get wet for a little bit. Then we did the Velocicoaster, which is more or less the newest ride in between the two parks. It just opened this year, and it's fucking incredible. It's probably my favorite out of everything that we did. I'm a roller coaster guy, through and through. I always like to tell the story of Lindsay popping my cherry way back when I was like 16 or 17 years old. We went to Six Flags together. I don't think we were even dating yet. I hadn't broken her will and spirit yeah, with my incessant asking out. But yeah, her and one of our mutual friends convinced me to ride my first upside down ride. And yeah, I ended up getting really sick because I was like so tense the entire time. But yeah, anyways, so the Velocicoaster, just like the Hulk, maybe even more so, like they are very crazy about you putting all your stuff in a locker.
Yeah, like honestly, I think you could have brought your cell phone on the Hulk if you just kept it in your pocket. But the Velocicoaster, I don't know about that one. You spend a lot more time upside down on the Velocicoaster, and there's no restraint like over your shoulder. You're just like,
right.
There's just like the lap restraint, so it's definitely much more of a thrill ride than the Hulk. Like the Hulk was just fun. Like it's just fun. The music is fun and the ride was fun. The Velocicoaster, I mean, it was great, it was fun, but it was just more thrilling. There was definitely more of that, like feeling yourself drop a little bit. Like
yeah, like I do know what you mean about the Hulk. Like they have the two speakers in your headrest, and it's playing like it's very like Avengers type music, like din 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 din. Like it's that kind of like triumphant like comic book movie music playing behind you, and so like it helps like get your heart racing and puts you like in that mindset of riding that like a themed ride like that. So yeah, there's no music element to the Velocicoaster, but it doesn't need it because it just rips your fucking face off. Yeah, I don't want to spoil too much of it because you, like everyone, should go in blind to that ride because there's a couple surprises, and I just haven't been on anything else like it in my life. Like Lindsay said, there's a couple of like you spend quite a bit of time upside down.
Yeah,
where it's just like, hey, we're gonna hang you upside down for like 4 seconds.
Yeah, like when you're on the Hulk, I mean, you go upside down, but it's just like super fast. But Velocicoaster, yeah, definitely not as fast.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see, and then after Velocicoaster, we watched the Hogwarts light show. They project this light show with the Sorting Hat. He has like a monologue where he talks about the 4 houses and what kind of people get sorted into the 4 houses, and it's super cool. It's not very long. It's maybe like 8-10 minutes long.
Yeah, I would say 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But we probably got there around 7:50, and it didn't start until like 8:40 when it got dark.
Yeah.
But it's a good thing that we got there when we did, because otherwise we would not have had seats.
Yeah. The one good thing about getting there when people were already there was that people were already there, because we were trying to figure out exactly where to go to watch it. Like, we're like, can we just stand anywhere and watch it? Like, we don't want to be in the way, where people are trying to like walk, like, so we didn't know. But it turns out like the bridge crossing from like, for lack of better words, like Jurassic Park land over into Hogsmeade that's the bridge that everyone stands on, and they do tape part of it off to dedicate, like, this is where people can stand to watch the light show. Past this white line, like, you can't go, like, you have to be inside the white line, because they still want to dedicate part of the walking bridge for people to actually cross over that don't want to watch the light show. But yeah, we definitely suggest staying for this. It is a lot of fun, really pretty. There's a little bit of fireworks, nothing that's gonna, rival the 4th of July fireworks you see, but it's still a fun experience. At least do it once. So yeah. So that was day 1. Like we said, we did Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure again. Flight of the Hippogriff, we said earlier, that was a kiddie ride, but still a lot of fun. And you do get like one of the best views of Hogwarts, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Then we did the Hogwarts Express to Diagon Alley, breakfast at the Leaky Cauldron. That basically same breakfast options you get from the Three Broomsticks. And it's a similar aesthetic experience. But if you are a diehard fan, you'll probably pick up more on the details of like, oh yeah, this really is like, the Leaky Cauldron or the Three Broomsticks. Like, you'll see things that set the two apart. To me, just being like I love Harry Potter, but I wouldn't really be able to say like which one is which on the inside. That's just me. Then we did Escape from Gringotts again. Still fun. We did the infamous Fast and Furious ride. It's infamous among certain circles because we'll just say that the ride mirrors the movies in that it's, how should we put it? Not
doesn't
lame.
Make a lot of sense.
Right.
The story doesn't exactly make a lot of sense.
Just like the movies.
Correct. It's, but it's just like a fun ride. The queue was fun. You got to see lots of cool cars. And like, I like the Fast and the Furious movies. They're just really fun car chase movies. Yeah. You don't go in there to watch a Fast and the Furious movie expecting your
high art.
Yeah, you're not expecting your mind to be expanded and
right.
You're not going in there for the amazing storytelling or anything. So yeah, I mean it for what it is, it was fine, and the queue is usually relatively short from what I've seen. So.
Yeah, we waited. We didn't wait at all. Like the only thing we really had to wait for was them to get enough people, because it's one of those like things where they have like a couple different parts where they have like introductory, since it's like storyline based, where they're like, oh, we need you to come in and help us with this, like with this job, like Shaw is trying to do this, and you got to help Dom rescue this and hijack these cars, and and so they're trying to rope you into the storyline. So quite a bit of like the experience is kind of getting you into that mindset. So that was kind of neat. Like, I liked it. I would even write it again. I think it would be fun if they upgraded the story after a while, because Lindsay, like you said, we've been following the Fast and Furious movies. We've seen all of them multiple times, and this one clearly follows like the Fast 5 storyline, I believe, where the first Shaw brother is part of like even before what's his name, Jason Statham, comes into the picture. Yeah. Like, so that gives you an idea of when they wrote the storyline for this ride. But I'd say this ride is,
it could be improved 1,000% if they would just make it like a car ride, like
not a party bus.
Yeah, because you're not in a car, which is the first problem. You're like in a bus, and so it's just. Like I said, the storyline is just a little bit awkward. But anyway, moving on.
Yeah. Write it once just for the experience, and then, make your own informed decision about it. After Fast and Furious, so this is actually where we started to incorporate our let's ride things as we come to them rule. So we literally just started writing things as we came to them, and the next up was Transformers. That was a lot of fun. Another 3D 4D ride with glasses, and I'd say it was probably the longest like 3D ride that we did. It was surprisingly long, And when it kept going, I was like, oh God, like, I was just waiting for the tipping point where I was like, just going to hurl or get so sick that I would just have to close my eyes for the rest of the ride. But it was actually fine. Maybe my my equilibrium or senses were just getting acclimated finally.
Yeah.
But either way, it wasn't bad at all. And I'm also a big Transformers fan. Just like Fast and Furious, it's one of those turn your brain off kind of thing. And just watch the big fighting Mechazords. So, yeah, definitely suggest Transformers. After that, Lindsay wanted to get our caricature done. This is something that I was like, whatever, but she really wanted to do it. So we did it. And we had a pretty fun conversation with the girl that did our picture.
Yeah.
She was really cool, and she was a Florida native, and yeah, she did a really good job on our picture. She drew us like witches and wizards. Yes,
and David was wearing the Sorting Hat,
mm-hmm.
and yeah, it was really awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We did that, and then we rode the ET ride, which is actually one of the oldest rides in the park. Like, it opened with Universal Studios. I think, what was it, 1998 that it opened?
Something like that. Yeah.
I think that's when I read or saw that it opened. It's a pretty old ride, but ET has a lot of charm to it. It's a lot of fun. Like, it's all like animatronics. You're on like a bike, so it's kind of like a simulated part of that scene from E.T. where his bike him and E.T. get lifted,
yes,
off the ground, and that we're flying, like whatever they say. It's been a long time since I've seen E.T., but it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of charm to it, and I kind of got emotional during the ride because one, it brought me back to the first time I rode it, when I went to Universal for the first time, but also like E.T. was a big part of my childhood. I owned that and Who Framed Roger Rabbit on VHS, and I would just alternate those like all day, every day. Like, those were the two movies that we owned, and I just watched the shit out of them. So yeah, this ride was a lot of fun. It brought back some fond memories. Then we took a break, and after we came back in the afternoon again, we rode the Rip Ride Rocket. Isn't that what it's called?
Yes.
Yeah. You want to talk a little bit about that?
It's just another roller coaster. You actually, if you do the photo pass, you actually get a video of yourself riding it, which is pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
Because like my face, like going up that big hill was not me having fun.
That was legit kind of scary, like, because it's not like an incline where you're going up to do the first drop. You're literally like perpendicular to the ground, like like space shuttle style.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy, and I love roller coasters, and it was still a little like no, but also you get to choose the music on this ride. You get to choose which music you listen to, and then
do you remember the music that we chose?
No. And then it doesn't have the over the shoulder restraint. It has like the lap thing again. So
it didn't? I thought it had the Okay.
So I mean, it was a really fun roller coaster. I will do it again easily.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah.
I guess one thing to note about these, that was another roller coaster where like everything must go in a locker.
Yes.
Also, but yeah, one thing to note about Rip Ride Rocket, the Hulk, Velocicoaster, especially since it has a lot of aerial stuff and upside down elements, they will shut down the ride if it gets too windy.
Yes, especially Rip Ride Rocket.
Yeah.
because there's like a huge, very, very tall incline at the beginning of this ride, and it gets shut down when it gets too windy.
Yeah, like I think what was it? I think it was our off day on Wednesday. We went to City Walk, and I noticed it wasn't running like at all. I was like, oh, it must be shut down. So yeah, that tends to happen sometimes. It does kind of suck. We were pretty fortunate where that didn't really happen to us, where we were queued up to ride something and then it just gets shut down. I guess that's another pro with express passes, is that that's less likely to happen because you spend less time in lines. So yeah, just another thing to consider when considering express passes. After Rip Ride Rocket was Jimmy Fallon. This one made us both equally sick.
It was a lot of 3D, and it had the glasses, and but I will say that I thought it was really funny, and I think our son, who is about to be 8, would have really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
There's some really cheesy moments. It's actually a race car, which would have made more sense for the Fast and the Furious movies.
Yeah.
But there's some like really cheesy moments. You know, you're like touring New York, so you get to see the Statue of Liberty. You know, like there's a part where pizza gets thrown at you.
And then you fly to the moon.
Yeah. Oh, and then you go to the moon and you see like a shark, and I don't know. It's just all this random stuff. But, you know, I think the height requirement is still 40 inches. But if you've got younger kiddos, I think they would probably enjoy this one.
Yeah, despite it, you know, making me a little nauseated or motion sick, I'd ride it again in a heartbeat just to see how Charlie would get a kick out of it. Because, like you said, I think he would love the shit out of it. The sheer craziness of it, the silliness.
Yeah,
it's fun. Then we did Men in Black. That's another one that's been there for a good while. That was okay.
Yeah.
You know, nothing to write home about.
We got to shoot some aliens. It was good. David won.
I mean, barely. Like,
no, he won like by like 30,000 points.
Yeah, but it's you know, it's definitely one of those older rides. The queue is really cool though. They have like this long strip where you see like a lot of I mean, I don't think they're the same props from the movie, but like it's in glass cases and like on display for you, so it kind of looks like all the guns. Like if you remember the Men in Black movie, like there's a couple scenes where like cases open up, like, and compartments just expand, and you see like all the weapons that they use, and it kind of felt like that, where you got to see like all the weapons. So that was kind of fun. And then so we did the Hogwarts Express back from Diagon Alley back to Hogsmeade. We went to Honeydukes and spent a ridiculous amount of money on candy.
Yes.
It's not hard to do because the candy is a little bit expensive.
Yes.
But we did, like, you know, we wanted to buy for us and for our kids and for family that hadn't been to Universal yet. So, and then we did the Hulk one last time.
Yes.
And that was, that wrapped up our Universal experience.
Yes, and I was very sad.
Yeah.
Like, very sad.
But I ended up talking you into getting your robes. Like you got your wand on the first day, and then we went back and into the same shopping place as where you got your wand, and you tried on the robes, and they looked great and they fit well, and you're like, I don't know, it seems kind of silly, and I was like, if you don't buy those robes, I'm going to buy them. So I basically forced Lindsay to buy the robes because she deserved the full experience. And she'll get some use out of it, you know, like come Halloween and all the other conventions that we end up going to. So,
sure.
Yeah. But yeah, that was Universal. I think we're just gonna spend a little bit of time going over what we did at Disney's Hollywood Studios, because we were only there for about a half day, right? Like
until about 2:00. Yeah.
Yeah. Because we really just wanted to go for the Star Wars stuff. Like when we did Disney, all 4 Disney parks several years ago for our honeymoon, we really enjoyed all 4 parks, but our favorite by far was Hollywood Studios because it had like the most like legit roller coasters. So we want to go back and do some of those again, and then of course see the new Galaxy's Edge. So when we got there, we did Rock and Roller Coaster. That was like a 10-minute wait, so it was kind of a no-brainer. Then we just beeline for Galaxy's Edge. We looked around for a little bit. The pictures that you see online and maybe from your friends that have gone and have shown you, like, none of it will do it justice, like, until you actually go and see everything. Like, your jaw will just drop and you'll probably cry, and it's amazing. If you are a Star Wars fan, it's pretty incredible to be there. It's just like it's the same kind of theming and mindset as like the Harry Potter stuff, like Diagon Alley and Hogsmeade, where they build these structures so high where you can't see any other part of the park. You can't see any other rides. Like the idea is to transform your surroundings so that it puts you in, like the Cantina or Mos Eisley or, wherever you're supposed to be. And they do an excellent job of that. So we walked around for a little bit, just kind of like taking it all in. Cause I had I booked an appointment like 4 months before our trip to build a lightsaber at Savvy's workshop. And I'm glad I booked that because it seemed like it was booking up pretty fast.
Yes, very much so.
Like there were people that were coming up and trying to get reservations for later on that day, and I think they were, but it was like later on that day, like that night.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, I think they were turning some people away, even like saying like, we do not have slots.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess a little bit about the lightsaber building experience. If you book just a reservation for yourself, you can bring one other person with you. Like if like you're bringing a partner or a friend or whatever that's not planning on building a lightsaber, that's totally cool. They can come in too. They do kind of have to stand off to the side, like kind of behind you and a little bit catty corner, or just so they're out of the way. But they do allow, like, as long as you don't have the flash on, you can take pictures and whatnot. I would definitely suggest bringing someone with you so they can take pictures for you, because you don't want to miss any part of this experience. Like, because it's not like just you going in and like they hand you some parts and they're like, all right, have fun, and then they just leave. Like, it's not like that at all. Like, it's curated the entire time. Like, they talk about like the girl was fucking incredible. Like, she talked about the like some of the Jedi lore and the lightsaber lore. Like, she was very knowledgeable, and she just did an amazing job of like transporting you and putting you into that mindset of like being a Jedi, and like, like you were actually there to build a real life lightsaber. And so you beforehand, they have you pick out what kind of style you want. There's like 4 different styles. I forget what they're called. But it's more or less like, here's like the light side, like you're a defender. Here's one where it's like the dark side. It's kind of like Sith driven and whatnot. And then there's one where it's like natural, where it uses parts of wildlife, like
a Rancor horn.
Yeah. Like I'd never seen this lightsaber
or
before.
tooth, I think it was.
Yeah, Rancor tooth. It's the coolest thing I've ever seen. I ended up not doing this one just because I wanted one that was a little bit more traditional. But if I went back and built another one, I'd probably do that one. It was really cool. But after you have completely built your lightsaber, the girl like will come around, or whoever is the lead curator, they come around and talk to you about like your lightsaber and what all you have, like the choices you made to build the
hilts.
The hilts, yeah. And like mine was really cool. Like I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, "Ooh, that's pretty." Like I said, it was more of a traditional, like, you know, Luke Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi type of hilt. But it had some gold like mixed in there as well. And she was telling me what was she saying? She's like, it's kind of like a Jedi of the future, but paying homage and respect to like the old Republic. And
yeah, and then she also made note of the 2 different grips on it,
right.
And then the weight that it kind of added to give you better balance.
Yeah, it's just, and she did this for everyone. Like, it's just the amount of knowledge that these people have about lightsabers is just incredible. Like, I went into it thinking, I was like, this is silly and borderline stupid to like spend $240 on something like this, but it was like I teared up during this experience.
I would also like to note that almost every single person in there was an adult man. There
was one kid.
Okay.
No, I wasn't saying that like I was agreeing with you. Like a room of, you think maybe there's like 12
something like
people
that,
in there. Like it's not a lot. Like it's not a big room. But yeah, there's out of like 12, 13, 14 people in there was like one kid. But she was like with her dad or grandpa, and he was building one as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was funny. I was kind of expecting more kids, but I definitely, that helped me and being reassured that it wasn't as silly as I kind of worked it up to be in my mind. So if you are a Star Wars fan and a fan of lightsabers and just do it. Don't think twice. Just, yes, it's a lot of money, but fuck it. You know, just do it. So after that, we did Rise of the Resistance. It was at a 120-minute wait, but we're like, it's not going to get any better. Let's just do it. Turns out we only waited about 40 minutes, I think.
I would say it was closer to an hour.
You think so?
Yeah.
I looked at my watch like when we got out, and it only, like, with the wait time and the ride time, I felt like it was only about an hour or so. But
yeah.
I
from the time we got into the ride to the time we got off the ride, it was an hour and 10 minutes.
Okay. Still, like, I mean, we definitely did not wait, 120 minutes
Correct.
to ride the ride.
Yes.
That was another ride that ran very efficiently. I'm not going to say anything about this ride because everyone deserves to go into this ride cold. It is an experience for the ages.
It was really cool.
It's, aside from like all the Harry Potter stuff we did was absolutely incredible, but this was something else. Yeah, is incredibly special. And yeah, you cannot go to Galaxy's Edge and not ride Rise of the Resistance. So
yes,
it's amazing. Then we did lunch, a little bit of lunch, and then we did Toy Story Mania after. Isn't that what it's called? Toy Story Mania. That was one of the Disney Pixar rides that we did the first time around when we went for our honeymoon, and
it was like brand new then.
Right, yeah. And and it's like it's still great. Like, you know, it didn't feel all janky or anything. So it was a lot of fun. I mean, it was no longer like the new kid in town, because Slinky Dog Dash is brand new. Like, it just opened this year, I think.
Yeah.
And that one, it's definitely a kiddie ride, but you know, it's Disney World, so the lines for the kiddie rides are going to be some of the longest.
Yeah.
Because you take your kids to Disney World.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Toy Story Mania, that was fun. Then we did Smuggler's Run, which is the other ride in Galaxy's Edge. And that was fun too. You're basically inside the Millennium Falcon. Lindsay and I, we were drivers, right?
Pilots, yeah,
sorry. Drivers. You did the left and right piloting, and I did the up and down piloting.
Yes. And then we had an engineer on board,
mm-hmm.
and we had some people to do the weapons,
yep.
the protectors, I guess, of us.
Yeah.
So each like ride, there's like 5 people.
Right.
And it was fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, you kind of forget that you're in the Millennium Falcon when you first walk in, but then you see like that like round booth where, you know, they play like that weird game of chess, whatever that game is.
Sabak. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah, I saw it. I was like, oh, you know where we are. So yeah, they also another must do. I will say Smuggler's Run is not as fun as Rise of the Resistance, but it's a different type of ride.
Yes.
Different type of experience. Like, you have stuff to do. Like, it's more interactive, and like you have jobs, like literally. Whereas Rise of the Resistance is, you're kind of like along for the ride.
Yeah.
So, and then we did Blue Milk to round off our afternoon, and then we left. The Blue Milk is actually very tasty and very refreshing.
It was interesting. I didn't hate it, but I didn't really love it either. I let David go for that.
Yeah, it's hard to explain what the taste is. You really just have to try it for yourself. It's like a blended drink, sort of.
Yes.
Kind of like an icy, but not like one of the fluffy ices. Like, it's like a
it's like a smoothie.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But I think it's prepared with like rice milk. So, it actually, I think it goes well with like a lot of people's like dietary restrictions, like people who can't have dairy and people who like are like gluten free. Like, I think it checks a lot of boxes for that. I'd have to do a little bit more digging to be sure, but I want to say I read something or watched a video, on a in-depth analysis on the Blue Milk, and they were talking about how that was one of the perks of it, was they wanted to make it so that, like, more the
most amount of people possible could enjoy it.
Yeah. And yeah, like I said, I thought it was really good. It was kind of fruity and but not too fruity. Like I said, it's hard to describe, but it's tasty. I liked it a lot. Yeah, I think that's it. I know we didn't really talk about the like the new Lightning lanes and the Genie Plus service. That it is a little bit of a chore to wrap your mind around. Like Lindsay said earlier, with Express Passes and Universal, it's easy. You buy the Express Pass, then you go put your ass in the Express Pass line. It's as easy as that. But with Disney and the new Lightning lanes, like a lot depends on if you're staying on Disney property or not. But like you basically book ride times, and to upgrade to Genie Plus, like anyone can do the quote unquote Genie experience. You just download the Disney Experience app, and like you can go through the park and check all the rides that you want to do, and it kind of helps you formulate a game plan on when to do the rides throughout the day, which is pretty cool. But then under like the lightning lane section or like tips section, it shows you like the the times available for you to book, like your lightning lane selection. So when you can go and ride that ride. And you can only book like 2 rides at a time, and they have to be within like a certain time period of each other. So, there's a little bit of a learning curve to figuring out how it all works. But once you dedicate a little bit of time to it, it's not too complicated. I was able to understand it after a little bit, and if I can understand it, anyone can. That's my motto. Honey, did I forget anything?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, we spent quite a bit of time on this one. But, it is quite an experience, and I figured we would need a little bit of time to dedicate to it. So,
yeah, it was really, really awesome.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. I can't wait to do it again. I hope we can do it again soon. Like we said at the beginning of the episode, we're planning on, or already planning our trip back with the kids, because we really like to take them to see some of the Disney stuff. But listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you learned something, or were at least entertained, and got to live vicariously through our experience. Like always, you can find us on all social media. You can download and follow the podcast on all streaming platforms. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Pandora, Amazon, you name it, we're on there more than likely. Leave us a rating and review where applicable. That's basically Apple Podcast and Spotify and a couple others. We definitely appreciate good ratings and reviews, because that helps us out. It's a cheap, free way to help out the podcast. Doesn't cost you a thing. However, if you are interested in things that cost you a tiny bit of your hard-earned dollars, we do have a Patreon where we have like a private group chat where we talk about future and upcoming episodes. We bounce ideas off of each other and try to figure out what to do in the future. It's a good time, close-knit group of folks, and got a couple different tiers for that in our Patreon. So give that a look, and that's going to do it. Be kind, stay geeky, and eat lots of cheesecake. Bye!
Bye!